Dr. Sarah Chen stood before the quantum array display of the CERN Deep Space Observatory, her hands trembling as she reviewed the data for the 100th time. The signal hadn't changed. A perfect mathematical sequence that couldn't possibly be natural, repeating with impossible precision from somewhere near the Kuiper Belt. Dr. Chen. Her assistant's voice cracked with tension. The President's Science Council is waiting. Sarah nodded, smoothing her lab coat, as she turned to face the wall of screens showing the most powerful people on Earth. The signal had appeared 3 days ago, and since then, sleep had become a distant memory. Distinguished colleagues, she began, her voice steadier than she felt. What we're seeing isn't just a message. It's a fundamental violation of quantum mechanics as we understand it. The signal maintains perfect coherence across interplanetary distances. It shouldn't be possible. The quantum display behind her erupted in a cascade of new data. Sarah spun around, her heart racing, as the numbers shifted. The signal was changing. "They're here," she whispered. The first ship appeared in a ripple of space-time that sent every instrument in the observatory into chaos. It was beautiful in its impossibility. A crystalline structure that seemed to exist in more dimensions than human eyes could process. More ships followed, each one larger than the last, until 7 of them hung in high Earth orbit like new constellations. Their message came simultaneously to every quantum-capable device on Earth, bypassing all encryption as if it didn't exist. "We are the Eternals. We have watched your species evolve from the moment your ancestors first gazed at the stars with wonder. You have reached a crucial threshold. Now you face the same challenge we present to all emerging intelligences. Create true randomness in our deterministic universe. You have 1,000 hours. Success means ascension. Failure means extinction." The global response was immediate and chaotic. Governments mobilized, markets crashed, and religions grappled with the implications of their existence. But in her observatory beneath the Swiss mountains, Sarah Chen saw something nobody else had noticed yet. "The signal," she muttered, pulling up the original data. It wasn't a message. It was a demonstration. She expanded the quantum readings from the first signal, comparing them to the Eternal ships. The pattern was the same, perfect coherence across impossible distances. But there was something else, a flaw so subtle it seemed deliberate. Sarah's fingers flew across her console as she dug deeper into the data. The Eternal ships weren't just maintaining quantum coherence, they were anchoring it. Every particle in their massive vessels existed in a state of perfect, deterministic harmony. It was elegant, beautiful, and absolutely terrifying. "Dr. Chen." The President's voice cut through her concentration. "Do you have any insights to share?" Sarah straightened, her mind racing as the implications crystallized. "Madam President, I believe I understand why they're asking for the impossible. The Eternals have achieved perfect control over quantum mechanics. They've eliminated randomness from their local space-time. They've made their corner of the universe perfectly predictable." "And why is that significant?" asked the Chinese premier, his hologram leaning forward with interest. "Because," Sarah replied, her voice growing stronger as the pieces fell into place. "They're trapped. Perfect determinism means perfect stagnation. They can predict everything that will happen in their sphere of influence, which means nothing truly new can ever occur. They're looking for a way out of the prison they've built for themselves." The room fell silent as the implications sank in. Humanity hadn't just been given a challenge. They'd been given a glimpse into the fundamental nature of consciousness and creation itself. 1,000 hours, Sarah continued, straightening her shoulders. "That's how long we have to prove that true randomness isn't just possible. It's necessary for the universe to function. And I think I know where to start." She pulled up a new display, showing the quantum entanglement patterns of human brain activity. "We've been looking at this wrong. The Eternals achieved perfect determinism by eliminating quantum uncertainty. But what if that uncertainty, that fundamental randomness, is exactly what makes consciousness possible? What if our inability to predict the future with perfect accuracy is our greatest strength?" The president's hologram nodded slowly. "What do you need, Dr. Chen?" Sarah took a deep breath, knowing her next words would set humanity on an irreversible path. Everything. Every quantum computer, every consciousness researcher, every philosopher who's ever pondered free will. The Eternals want to see if we can create true randomness. Let's show them what billions of unpredictable human minds working together can do. Above them, the crystalline ships of the Eternals hung motionless in their perfect, predictable orbits, waiting to see if humanity could accomplish the impossible, or if they would join the countless other species who had failed to break free from the chains of absolute determinism. Last edited 13 hours ago. The Global Consciousness Initiative headquarters, hastily established in the abandoned CER and particle collider complex, buzzed with an energy that bordered on desperation. 852 hours remained until the Eternals' deadline, and humanity's greatest minds had gathered in this underground sanctuary to solve what seemed unsolvable. Dr. Sarah Chen watched as holographic displays filled the circular chamber, each one showing different approaches to the problem of true randomness. Quantum physicists argued with neuroscientists, while consciousness researchers debated with computer scientists. The air was thick with possibility and fear. "The quantum vacuum fluctuations are our best bet," insisted Dr. Amit Patel, his hands moving through the air as he manipulated a 3D model of subatomic particles. "If we can prove that virtual particles appearing and disappearing represent true randomness." "The Eternals would have thought of that," interrupted Dr. Maria Santos, a consciousness researcher from Brazil. "They've mastered quantum mechanics at a level we can barely comprehend. We need to think beyond traditional physics." Sarah studied the live feed from the orbital telescopes. The Eternal ships remained unchanged, their crystalline structures refracting sunlight in patterns that seemed to follow some impossibly complex mathematics. But something about their perfection bothered her. Dr. Chen, a young researcher approached, holding a tablet. "We've analyzed the data you requested about human brain activity during creative breakthroughs. The results, they're strange." Sarah took the tablet, her eyes widening as she scrolled through the findings. The patterns of neural activity during moments of genuine inspiration showed quantum fluctuations that shouldn't have been possible in organic matter at room temperature. "Get me Dr. Yuki Tanaka," she said, her voice urgent. Now. The Japanese quantum biologist arrived within minutes, his usually immaculate lab coat wrinkled from days without rest. Sarah shared the data, watching as understanding dawned in his tired eyes. "Impossible," he whispered. "These patterns, they're similar to the quantum coherence the Eternals use, but they're unstable, chaotic." "Exactly," Sarah said, pulling up more data on the main display. "Look at what happens when we compare multiple human minds during simultaneous creative breakthroughs. The patterns aren't just random, they're unpredictable in a way that defies mathematical modeling." The chamber grew quiet as more researchers gathered around their display. Dr. Santos pushed forward, her eyes bright with sudden understanding. "It's not just about the quantum effects," she said. "It's about consciousness itself. When we create something truly new, art, music, scientific insights, we're not just processing information. We're doing something that can't be reduced to computational steps." "But the Eternals have consciousness," Dr. Patel objected. "They're clearly intelligent beings." Sarah shook her head, excitement building as the pieces began to align. "Do they? Look at their ships, their technology. Everything they create is perfect, predictable, bound by absolute mathematical precision. What if their version of consciousness is fundamentally different from ours?" She brought up a new display, showing the neural patterns of a jazz musician improvising alongside the quantum signature of one of the Eternal ships. They've eliminated randomness from their existence, but in doing so, they might have lost something essential: the ability to truly create. Dr. Tanaka's hands were shaking as he ran new calculations. The quantum fluctuations in human consciousness, they're not just random noise. They're patterns that emerge from chaos, but they're patterns that couldn't have been predicted beforehand. Like jazz, Dr. Santos whispered. Like art, like every genuine creative act. Sarah felt a chill run down her spine as she faced the assembled scientists. The Eternals achieved perfect determinism by eliminating quantum uncertainty from their consciousness. But what if that uncertainty isn't a flaw in the universe? What if it's essential for true creativity, for genuine free will? She pulled up the original message from the Eternals. Create true randomness in our deterministic universe. We've been thinking about this wrong, she said, her voice growing stronger. They're not asking us to prove that randomness exists in nature. They're asking us to create it. And every time a human mind makes a truly creative leap, every time we have an insight that couldn't have been predicted by any amount of prior information, we're doing exactly that. Dr. Patel leaned forward, his exhaustion forgotten. But how do we prove it? How do we demonstrate this to beings who have eliminated uncertainty from their existence? Sarah smiled, an idea taking shape that was both brilliant and terrifying. We don't just show them art evidence, we show them our minds. She turned to the assembled scientists, artists, and thinkers from every corner of human civilization. We need to build a bridge between human consciousness and their quantum-coherent technology. We need to show them what they've lost and what they might gain back. As the team began to work with renewed purpose, Sarah glanced again at the orbital feed. The Eternal ships hung in their perfect formation, unchanged and unchanging. Soon, they would witness something their deterministic minds might find impossible to comprehend: the beautiful chaos of human creativity. 600 hours remained, and the CERN complex had transformed into something that blended science with artistry. In the main chamber, where particle accelerators once probed the fundamental nature of matter, a new kind of experiment was taking shape. Dr. Sarah Chen stood at the center of what her team had dubbed the consciousness collider, a massive array of quantum sensors arranged in a perfect sphere, designed to interface with both human minds and the Eternal's crystalline technology. Musicians played improvisational jazz in one section, their neural patterns feeding directly into quantum computers. Artists created spontaneous works while connected to sensors that tracked every quantum fluctuation in their consciousness. Mathematicians worked on unsolved problems, their moments of insight captured and analyzed in real time. The interface is ready, Dr. Tanaka announced, his voice hoarse from exhaustion. But Sarah, what we're attempting here goes beyond dangerous. We're trying to create a bridge between human consciousness and their quantum-coherent technology. If we make a mistake, we don't have a choice, Sarah interrupted, watching as more volunteers were connected to the array. The Eternals want proof of true randomness. We'll give them front-row seats to the human mind in action. The first test began with a single pianist, her fingers dancing across keys as quantum sensors monitored every neural fluctuation. The data streams showed patterns that shouldn't have been possible, quantum effects cascading through organic matter in ways that defied every model of brain function. It's working, Dr. Santos whispered, her eyes fixed on the readings. The quantum fluctuations, they're not random noise. There's something else entirely. But it wasn't enough. They needed more. Sarah made the call she'd been dreading. Bring in the dreamers, the world's most powerful empaths. Artists and intuitive thinkers had been gathered, waiting for this moment. As they were connected to the array, the quantum readings exploded with activity. The patterns of their consciousness created ripples in the quantum field that even the Eternal's perfect sensors couldn't ignore. Above them, the crystalline ships shifted for the first time since their arrival. They're noticing, Dr. Patel reported, monitoring the orbital feeds. The quantum signature of their ships, it's changing. Sarah felt a chill as she watched the data streams. The Eternals weren't just observing, they were responding. The perfect mathematical harmony of their ships began to show microscopic fluctuations, tiny imperfections in their otherwise flawless coherence. They're trying to understand, she realized. They're attempting to model what we're doing. to reduce it to their kind of mathematics. But human consciousness refused to be reduced. Every attempt by the Eternals to predict the patterns generated by the dreamers was met with new, impossible variations. Jazz melodies spiraled into quantum fluctuations that couldn't have been anticipated. Artists' inspirations created ripples in reality that no deterministic system could have generated. And then something unexpected happened. One of the Eternal's smaller ships descended through the atmosphere, its crystalline structure pulsing with patterns that matched the quantum fluctuations from the consciousness collider. It hung above the CERN complex like a fragment of impossible mathematics made real. The message that came wasn't in words or data. It was pure quantum information, a direct bridge between their consciousness and humanity's greatest experiment. They want to connect, Sarah breathed, understanding the implications immediately. They want to experience it directly. The risk was enormous. Connecting their quantum-coherent consciousness directly to human minds could destroy both. But as Sarah studied the patterns emanating from the Eternal ship, she noticed something remarkable. "Look at their quantum signature," she said, pointing to the display. "The perfect coherence. It's breaking down. Not failing, transforming. They're allowing uncertainty into their consciousness for the first time in what might be millions of years." Dr. Santos gripped her arm. "Sarah, if we do this, if we connect them directly to human consciousness, there's no predicting what might happen. We could break them. We could break ourselves." Sarah looked around the chamber at the assembled dreamers, artists, and scientists. Each face showed the same mixture of fear and determination. They had committed everything to prove that uncertainty and creativity weren't flaws in the universe. They were essential features of conscious existence. "Send them our response," she ordered. "Show them what it means to take a leap into true uncertainty." The consciousness collider hummed as it aligned with the quantum signature of the Eternal ship. In orbit, the other ships began to pulse in harmony, their perfect crystalline structures showing the first signs of beautiful imperfection. Humanity was about to share its most precious gift with beings who had forgotten the power of uncertainty, the ability to create something truly new, to think thoughts that couldn't have been predicted, to embrace the chaos that makes consciousness possible. As the connection was established, Sarah thought she heard music, not from the jazz musicians, but from the quantum field itself, a harmony of human chaos and eternal order beginning to dance together in ways that neither species could have imagined alone. The moment of connection between human and eternal consciousness sent shockwaves through both species. In the CERN complex, the dreamers connected to the consciousness collider gasped in unison as their minds touched something ancient and vast. Above, the crystalline ship's perfect geometry began to shift and flow like liquid light. Dr. Sarah Chen watched in awe as the quantum readings exceeded anything they had anticipated. But mixed with the wonder was something unexpected: understanding. Through the connection, the true nature of the Eternal's challenge was becoming clear. "They're dying," she whispered, the knowledge flooding through the quantum link. "Their entire civilization is dying." The images cascaded through the connection. The Eternals had achieved their perfect deterministic existence millions of years ago, eliminating uncertainty from their universe piece by piece. But in doing so, they had started a countdown they couldn't stop. Their perfect prediction, their absolute coherence, was accelerating entropy in their corner of space. They were burning out the universe around them. "It's not just a test," Dr. Santos said, her voice shaking as she interpreted the quantum data. "They're looking for salvation." Through the connection, the Eternals shared their history. They had visited countless civilizations, offering the same challenge: create true randomness in a deterministic universe. Each species had tried to solve it with technology, with mathematics, with increasingly complex algorithms. All had failed. But humanity had done something unprecedented. Instead of fighting against uncertainty, they had embraced it. Instead of trying to prove randomness existed in nature, they had demonstrated how to create it through consciousness itself. The quantum readings from the connected minds showed patterns that defied the Eternal's perfect mathematics, genuine novelty emerging from the interaction of human creativity and quantum uncertainty. Each new thought, each creative leap, each moment of genuine inspiration created ripples of true randomness that couldn't have been predicted by any system, no matter how advanced. But the connection was taking its toll. The dreamers connected to the collider were showing signs of strain, their minds struggling to process the vast, ordered consciousness of the Eternals. And the eternal ship itself was changing, its crystalline structure developing fractal patterns that had never existed in their perfect geometry. "We need to disconnect," Dr. Tanaka warned, monitoring the biological readings. "The human mind isn't meant to handle this level of quantum coherence." Before Sarah could give the order, a new understanding flowed through the connection. The Eternals weren't just observing, they were learning. For the first time in millions of years, their perfect, predictable consciousness was experiencing something truly new. "Wait," Sarah called out, her eyes fixed on the quantum readings. "Something's happening." The patterns of interaction between human and eternal consciousness were changing. The rigid mathematics of the Eternal's thought processes began to show signs of flexibility, while the chaos of human creativity started forming new kinds of order. Neither species was being overwhelmed. They were adapting to each other. Through the quantum link, the Eternals shared their deepest fear. Their perfect determinism hadn't just been killing their corner of space. It had been spreading, creating a wave of absolute predictability that threatened to envelope the entire universe. They had been searching for a way to stop it, to reintroduce the uncertainty necessary for existence itself to continue. That's why they came to us, Sarah realized, the implications staggering. They saw something in human consciousness, in our embrace of uncertainty, in our ability to create genuine novelty, that could save not just them, but reality itself. But as the connection deepened, a new crisis emerged. The other eternal ships in orbit began to pulse with energy, their quantum signatures showing signs of instability. The change in their companion was triggering a cascade effect through their entire network of consciousness. Dr. Patel rushed to Sarah's station, his face pale. "The quantum coherence between their ships is breaking down. If we don't stop this now, we could destroy their entire civilization." Sarah stared at the readings, her mind racing. The Eternals had asked humanity to create true randomness, but they had given them something far more powerful, a way to balance order and chaos, to find harmony between certainty and creativity. "No," she said, her voice firm. "We're not going to stop it. We're going to help them through it." She turned to the assembled team, her decision made. The Eternals spent millions of years eliminating uncertainty from their existence. Now they need to remember how to dance with chaos, and we're going to teach them. Above them, the crystalline ships continued their transformation, their perfect geometries learning to embrace imperfection. The fate of two civilizations, and perhaps the universe itself, hung in the balance as humanity prepared to share its most vital lesson. That true consciousness requires both order and chaos, certainty and doubt, prediction and surprise. The question was whether both species could survive the learning. 200 hours remained until the original deadline, but time had become almost meaningless in the quantum dance between human and eternal consciousness. The CERN complex thrummed with energy as the consciousness collider operated at full capacity, its quantum sensors tracking the unprecedented merger of two fundamentally different forms of awareness. Dr. Sarah Chen hadn't slept in days, surviving on synthetic stimulants as she monitored the transformation taking place both above and below. The crystalline ships in orbit had abandoned their perfect geometric formation, now moving in patterns that combined mathematical precision with artistic spontaneity. Each vessel's structure had evolved, developing fractal patterns that seemed to reflect both order and chaos. "The quantum readings are stabilizing," Dr. Tanaka reported, his voice filled with wonder. "They're not just accepting randomness, they're learning to generate it themselves." Through the connection, the Eternals shared their experience. For millions of years, they had viewed uncertainty as a flaw to be eliminated, consciousness as a process to be perfected. But human minds had shown them something they had forgotten: that consciousness itself emerges from the dance between order and chaos. "Look at this," Dr. Santos called out, pointing to new data streams. The quantum patterns generated by the connected human dreamers and the eternal ship showed something extraordinary: a new form of consciousness emerging from their interaction, one that preserved the strengths of both species while transcending their limitations. But not all the Eternals were embracing the change. Several ships in orbit maintained their rigid perfection, their quantum signatures showing resistance to the wave of transformation spreading through their network. Through the connection, Sarah felt their fear. Fear of losing the perfection they had spent eons achieving, fear of embracing the uncertainty they had fought so hard to eliminate. "They're fighting it," Dr. Patel warned, monitoring the orbital feeds. "The resistant ships, they're trying to isolate themselves from the network." Sarah understood the danger immediately. If the eternal consciousness network fractured, the resulting quantum backlash could destroy both their civilization and Earth's atmosphere. They had one chance to prevent catastrophe. "Connect me," she ordered, stepping into the central node of the consciousness collider. Full integration. Her colleagues protested, but Sarah knew it was necessary. The Eternals needed to understand that embracing uncertainty didn't mean losing themselves. It meant becoming more than they had ever been. As her consciousness merged with the quantum network, Sarah experienced existence as the Eternals did. She saw the universe through their perfect mathematics, felt the elegant certainty of their predictive models. But she also showed them what they had lost: the joy of surprise, the thrill of genuine discovery, the deep satisfaction of creating something truly new. Through her connected consciousness, she shared humanity's greatest moments of inspiration. Einstein visualizing himself riding a beam of light, Mozart hearing an entire symphony in a single instant, a child's first moment of wonder at the stars. Each memory carried with it the quantum signature of true randomness, of thoughts that couldn't have been predicted by any system of perfect knowledge. The resistant eternal ships began to respond, their rigid patterns softening as they experienced these moments of pure creation. But more importantly, they began to understand what humanity had discovered: that true randomness wasn't something to be created or eliminated. It was something that emerged naturally from the interaction between consciousness and quantum reality. The wave of determinism. Sarah transmitted through the connection. "You don't need to stop it. You need to transform it." She showed them how human consciousness constantly danced between order and chaos, how each creative thought combined the predictable patterns of neural activity with quantum fluctuations that defied prediction. The Eternals began to understand that their perfect determinism hadn't been spreading death through the universe. It had been waiting for this moment of transformation. Above the Earth, the eternal ships began to move in a new configuration, their structures now embodying both mathematical perfection and creative spontaneity. The quantum network that connected them wasn't breaking down. It was evolving, learning to carry both certainty and uncertainty, both prediction and surprise. Through the connection, the Eternals shared their gift in return. They showed humanity how to navigate the quantum realm with precision while maintaining the chaos that made them unique. Together, the two species began to understand how consciousness itself might be the universe's answer to entropy, a force that could create genuine novelty while preserving the underlying patterns of existence. As Sarah disconnected from the network, exhausted but triumphant, she knew that both humanity and the Eternals had been transformed. The original challenge, to create true randomness in a deterministic universe, had led to something far more profound: the discovery that consciousness itself was the bridge between order and chaos, between the predictable and the possible. The Eternals withdrew their deadline. There was no need for threats or tests anymore. Both species had learned what they needed from each other, and the universe itself seemed richer for their discovery. As the crystalline ships prepared to depart, Their structures now a beautiful blend of geometric precision and creative spontaneity, they left humanity with one final message. You have shown us that the greatest truth lies not in perfect certainty or pure chaos, but in the courage to dance between them. Together, we have redefined what is possible. Dr. Sarah Chen watched them go, knowing that this wasn't an ending but a beginning. Humanity had done more than pass a test or save a civilization. They had helped discover a new way of being, one that might ensure the universe would remain forever capable of creating something truly new.